touchdowns, but has been a little looser than usual with the football. His 8 interceptions are second only to rookie Zach Wilson. King Henry has been an absolute wrecking ball, leading the league with 130 yards per game. Keeps that pace up, he would end with over 2,200 yards, 17-game season, don't forget, shattering Eric Dickerson's record by 100. So maybe just a slightly off Dickerson's pace. The Chiefs rank 30th in the NFL, allowing 5.1 yards per rush. I will pay anything they ask in DFS this week for both Henry and Mahomes as we welcome back Louis Riddick and our football analyst, well, here we go, Jeff Darlington. Insider. I can call you in. You're going to analyze the information.
You can call me whatever you want, Max. It's fine. I've been called worse.
Absolutely. Look, Lou, you were there to witness Derrick Henry's 3-touchdown performance in the Titans' win over the Bills on Monday night. How difficult is King Henry going to be for this kind of soft Chiefs run defense?
He's going to be very difficult because I'll tell you the one thing that the Titans offensive line, which is where it starts, the one thing that they do very well is they run that wide zone very well, meaning this, they get defensive linemen running laterally and then just lock on and just start pushing players to the sideline, and they create creases for Derrick Henry, who as soon as he gets those big shoulders pointing north and south, you know this. Second level and third level defenders, linebackers, and secondary people have to start making decisions about, okay, how do I want this to end for me? Do I want to end up on SportsCenter? Do I want to end up on somebody's poster? Do I want to end up with a, separated shoulder? Do I just want, just what do I want out of this right here? And he knows it. They know it. And as the game goes on and you start getting fatigued and they really start coming off the ball on you, it just gets worse and worse. And Kansas City has shown no ability to really slow down anybody's rushing attack. They've done it in the past. They did it in the AFC Championship game against them a couple of years ago, and it can be done. But Derrick Henry is one of those guys who just keeps coming and tests your will. We're going to find out a little bit about Kansas City's run defense and their defense overall.
Jeff, you're not supposed, first of all, running backs are supposed to be able to catch passes and be all-purpose backs. They're not supposed to be able to do in today's game what Derrick Henry's doing in playoff games. When the other team knows what's coming, he's still picking up 150 yards. What are you hearing around the league about the value of Derrick Henry?
Well, obviously the value is immense, but I think that what we need to also add here is that this offense, and this is why I'm so bullish on the Titans, is that this offense is not even where it can potentially be. Derrick Henry is definitely carrying the load right now. Ryan Tannehill's playing effective football, but not necessarily the level of football he's played the past couple years, partly because Julio Jones and A.J. Brown have both been dealing with injuries for the most part. I mean, A.J. played that game with food poisoning the other day, still had 7 catches. Julio was making catches on a hamstring that's still bothering him. So, look, I think this team is still on its ascent up. You add Derrick Henry to an ascending team, and I mean, I don't know how we're not considering them a Super Bowl contender right now. I certainly am.
Julio Jones and A.J. Brown should be probably the best, or certainly in the conversation, is the best tandem in the league. Even if they don't become a pass-first team, that should make it even easier, you would think, for Derrick Henry. Louis, you've seen 5 of the top 6 teams in the AFC standings in person on Monday Night Football. Who's the best in that conference and why?
Yeah, I think it's Baltimore. And I think Baltimore, when you talk about ascending teams, Baltimore is going to be another one of those teams that they will be better in another month, especially as the running back rotation really solidifies itself, between Le'Veon Bell and Devontae Freeman, especially when Rashad Bateman really gets his football legs underneath him, which I can, as a wide receiver, and I can just tell you this, from seeing him in person, this kid is fantastic. He's a fantastic wide receiver. Not a good one, a fantastic wide receiver. Mark Andrews is the best tight end between the numbers of any in the NFL. He's the best receiving tight end between the numbers of any in the NFL. And Marquise Brown is now starting to catch the football on a consistent basis, and we know how fast he is. Defensively, they're going to continue to get better because that's what Don Martindale does with defenses. And they are going to pressure your brains out. They are just going to come and come and come as far as bringing the pressure and bringing the heat and making your quarterback uncomfortable. And they've got playmakers in the secondary that are just fantastic athletes who are ball hawks like Marlon Humphrey. And they have just withstood the test of time as far as the battle of attrition that always goes on in the NFL. They just keep rolling more players in there. They're one of the very best, if not the very best coached team in the NFL. And once we get in November and December, It's going to be about, with Lamar, it's going to be about this. How do we stop him from throwing the football first? Just watch. And then he's got you right where you then he's got you almost like where Dallas has you
game
right now.
over. If it becomes like, let's stop him from throwing, just raise the white flag. And by the way, you mentioned Bateman. They have a receiver to take the lid off in Hollywood Brown, right? They have a really good tight end. What he has been missing is a fantastic wideout, a fantastic receiver. If that's what Bateman is, oh, Lord. Okay, Jeff, who is the best in the AFC? Which team is the best in the AFC?
It's borderline insulting for me to disagree with Lou, given what the Ravens have done, like you said, without the running backs.
Yeah, it is insulting.
About a week before this, and I'm not trying to insult them, but I am going to mention another team, because why not? I just talked about them, the Tennessee Titans. Like, that's another team that actually probably doesn't get the respect that they deserve. They're starting to, of course, but this win over the Bills is something that I think puts them in the upper echelon without question. Okay, so you've got the Ravens, and you've got the Titans, and you've got the Bills. Those I think we all look at as the three teams that are sort of running this conference right now at this very moment. So I can make a case that the Titans could come out on top of that game. But it is difficult because the Ravens just deserve our respect right now for everything they've done.
I hear you about the Ravens, guys. Let me throw this out there because the last couple seasons I've been waving, hey, have we forgot about the Kansas City Chiefs? Every year it's like, the Chiefs, their defense is no good. Spagnuolo's defenses get better and better. New offensive lines get better and better. And if people think Patrick Mahomes is going to keep throwing interceptions, let me let you in on something. I'll let clue you in. He's not. But you know what? He's going to keep throwing touchdowns. You have to make me believe it about the Chiefs if you're in the AFC. But maybe the Ravens will make me believe it. Lamar has been from another planet this year. Okay, on to another quarterback, guys. The NFL trade deadline is just 12 days away, and one of the biggest names out there is Deshaun Watson. But the Texans star quarterback hasn't even played this season because of legal issues and civil lawsuits. Watson has previously asked for a trade, and yesterday it ramped up with a report from the Houston Chronicle that a deal could happen this week. Okay, so guys, Jeff, let's start with you. The Dolphins are one of the teams mentioned as being interested in Deshaun. It made all the sense in the world even before all the off-field problems, given the resources they had to make the trade, warm weather, all those kind of things, a glamour market. What is the latest with Miami?
Well, I mean, when we talk about those off-the-field concerns, it's like, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the show? If you're familiar with that expression. You cannot talk about Deshaun Watson without talking about the fact that he has 22 civil lawsuits against him alleging sexual misconduct and sexual assault. You can't. And the problem with the situation is not just the cloud that's hovering over him, it's the lack of clarity that teams that are interested in him have gotten from the NFL, from the Texans, and from Deshaun Watson's camp. And partly that is because there is no clarity to these civil cases. There is no settlement. These are at a standstill at this point. So to expect Deshaun Watson to be traded in the next 2 weeks with no conditions on that trade, which I'm told the Texans are not willing to give these teams, it's unfathomable to me that a team would give up their entire organization's assets to bring on a guy that has so much clarity, lack of clarity hanging over him.
Jeff, I'm glad you brought that up. It's not 3 or 4 different allegations where already you'd be like, oh, wait, 3 or 4? It is 22 outstanding allegations, all alleging very similar behavior. So it seems to me one of the ways we can kind of understand if it is Miami, if it is the Dolphins, how soon they think he might be back on the field. Let's set aside for a moment. I'm glad you brought up the ethical and moral, let alone legal issues, right? Because this is not like, you just throw someone away when they've done something wrong. This is a lot of stuff, and he hasn't accounted for it yet, right? So we're going to know what Miami thinks about the likelihood based on the kind of offer they make for Deshaun Watson, I think. Lou, where are you on all of this?
Look, I think this is absurd. I honestly think this is absurd. I mean, listen to what Jeff just said. The Houston Texans are not willing to offer any kind of conditions on a trade for a guy who has 22 outstanding lawsuits against him that he may be innocent of. Let's just, for the sake of discussion, let's just say he's innocent of all of them. Let's just say that. But you don't know that yet. So are you willing to, at this point, gamble significant resources on someone who the team that is trying to offload him to you is willing to give you no concessions, no stipulations whatsoever, meaning this. We're not going to tell you where these cases stand. Heck, maybe we don't even know where they stand. You don't know where they stand, Miami, but I'll tell you what. We want 4 number ones, 3 number ones, we want this, we want that. And guess what? If it goes bad, that's on you. How in the hell could you make that trade then in good conscience, number one? In good conscience, number one.
Right.
And as a professional general manager, how could you do that? This has to be something that if it is getting to this point, this is above the GM. This is ownership.